I went to FanFest and it was good. So, for those of you who don't know, FanFest is a new event that Universal Studios Hollywood is holding out here in Hollywood. And it is an event just like Horror Nights, where it is an after hours event where it's about a bunch of different IPs that they want to shed some light on, I guess, or make some money from, if you will. And I had a good time. I still don't know what FanFest is supposed to be or what it is supposed to create for the park other than money. Uh, but I had fun. I thought it was a fun experience that I would never pay for. um, just because I am not connected to these different IPs that they had for this event. So FanFest goes, I think, from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. And it's kind of the same hours as Horror Nights and is the same exact formula as Horror Nights, just without the horror, which we have Jujutsu Kaisen, One Piece, Dungeons and Dragons, Star Trek, some Harry Potter stuff, and some Nintendo stuff, which whatever. All these IPs I'm not really connected to. Oh, and Back to the Future. Other than Back to the Future, and I would say Dungeons and Dragons, I know more about those two properties than the other properties that they have. I wouldn't say I'm a mega fan. I'm a super fan. Like I'm not ripping my shirt off because they had a fucking dwarf bard in the Dungeons and Dragons experience. It was whatever. It was cool. It is a cool thing to look at. It is a cool thing to go and experience. There's some cool sets, there's some cool scenery, and the actors definitely put all their acting abilities into their performances. But where the event loses me is what is the point of experiencing all this? We go into these experiences, which are like their FanFest's mazes. And I know at the end of the day, we're supposed to be entertained, but with the maze, when we go through a maze in Horror Nights, we can experience a story, right? And similar to FanFest, you also experience a story. But the difference is when you go through a maze at Horror Nights, it feels like you're more involved in the actual maze. It feels like there's more eyes on you and you feel more included, I would say. But with the FanFest interactions, and I'm mainly talking about Dungeons and Dragons and Star Trek, uh, those two I think are going to be the equivalent of mazes that we see in Horror Nights. Um, we have another attraction for Back to the Future, but I will get to that at the end because that was my favorite attraction, and I want to start off with the complaints, the bad stuff, the negative stuff, so that we can end on a good note. But with the looks of these sets for Dungeons and Dragons and Star Trek, they are phenomenal. It is crazy insane. More so Dungeons and Dragons than Star Trek, but it is crazy that this event is happening, and that is what got me excited to go to this event. The only problem is when you're in these rooms, when you're in this walkthrough attraction, it's missing something from you. It feels like you're in an interactive show, which it is. But when it's an interactive show, we're supposed to have interactions. And at least the times I went through Star Trek twice, went through Dungeons and Dragons once, and there was no interactions. And I was trying to have interactions because I brought a Harry Potter wand, not this wand, but I'm just gonna pop this baby out so that I can have some visual representation of what I was doing and how I was trying to interact with the actors. So I had a wand, not like this. It was more Peter Pettigrew's wand that he has in Harry Potter, the one where the snake one, the one where he's a villain. But I was going through Dungeons and Dragons with the wand because magic and magic, right? Of course, it's different magic, but I wanted to interact with these actors. So I brought out the wand and I was trying my hardest to find a moment to where I could be like, don't worry, guys, I got this. I'm going to cast a spell. And, and then it's completely like, it's Dungeons and Dragons. So I could go like, it could be like the reason I didn't cast the spell was because I rolled a 1, The reason nothing came out of the 1 was because I rolled a 1 or something, And I was hoping that they would play off of maybe something like that. But all I got from one of the actors, I think he was the dwarf bard, is, oh, oh, that looks like a powerful wand. Be careful where you point it. And that's all I got. Which, to the actor's defense, they have a script. I understand they have a script they have to follow, and they have to move along this story because there's also people behind me waiting to go through this attraction in line. But when I was going through, I did not wait a long time to get into any of these attractions. The longest I waited for is Star Trek, and I'll get into that of why I waited so long for that. But Dungeons and Dragons was cool. I just wanted more interactions, maybe with the wands. Like I paid money. I paid money for the wands. I know that the point is to go around Hogsmeade and interact with the wand, but give me something more. Give me something more with the wands, please, because I think the wands are really cool, and I would love to collect all these wands, but there's really no point other than to just have the wand, So that's cool. Whatever. If they have a script to follow, I understand, and if that's why there's no interactions with the guests, I understand. But there's reasons why that is a big question to me of when we're supposed to interact and when we're not supposed to interact, because the whole point of these walkthroughs is to interact with these actors and to follow and interact with the story that is progressing as you walk from room to room. So that is my biggest complaint of the attractions for Dungeons and Dragons and Star Trek, which I'll get more into, but I'm specifically talking about Dungeons and Dragons right now. The other problems that I have with Dungeons and Dragons is it is so far from everything that once the experience ends, the actors are like, "Oh, thank you for all your help. You guys were great adventurers." Da, 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 da. Go ahead and get a bottle, or not a bottle, but get like a tankard of mead for me at the tavern. Da 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 da. And we have to walk from where Dungeons and Dragon is, which is almost behind Nintendo World. We have to walk from there all the way up to where they had the weekend bar for Horror Nights, and that's where the tavern is. I think it would have been so cool if you just have a section of that soundstage and it is an open bar that you can only access if you go through the Dungeons and Dragons experience. Have some rules like they have at the Cantina in Star Wars Land, where you have to your time limit is 45 minutes. You have 45 minutes you can spend in here, you can order how much ever you want, but you're capped off at 45 minutes. And then have like a disclaimer is if it gets too full, we might ask you guys to hurry up and finish your drinks or something like that to add to this interactive experience, because that whole walk takes you out of being in Dungeons and Dragons to that tavern that they have set up above Jurassic. But the big thing that people are going to talk about when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons is Xanathar. Xanathar's puppet. If you don't know, he is a beholder, the big fucking head with an eye and multiple eyes coming out of it. Looked amazing. From what I hear, he was a puppet from the Jim Henson Company or something, and by God, it shows. It was really, really fantastic, and it was really cool. It's just the only problem is it's hidden away, and when he first appears, you're not going to know that he is there until a light shines because he's attacking you with disintegration from his fucking little eye, and that's when you're going to know that he's there. It's fine. It's a big set. Your eyes are going to wander, and that is another complaint that I had. Was it was hard for me to follow the story because I was too busy looking at everything. I was too busy taking it all in, and I also didn't have time to take it in because they're rushing you to each room. All right, we're gonna say this. We have to find the wand of erections, and we have to find it, and it got stolen by the labia queen or something, and you're just going around, and then you get to the last room, and the labia queen appears, and it's the character that was in the first room that was obviously the labia queen, and she fucking gets defeated, and that's it. And that's the experience. You get rushed from room to room to room, which is my complaint of when are we supposed to interact? When are we supposed, or if we're even supposed to interact? If we're not even supposed to interact with these guests, and we're just supposed to shut the fuck up and follow this script, then all my complaints are voided. And my new complaint would be, we should interact with the actors, because they are the focal point of following the story. And there's a reason why I believe that, and I will get to that when we talk about Back to the Future. But that's kind of my thoughts on Dungeons and Dragons. It was really, really cool to see these sets, to see all these, Dungeons and Dragons themed rooms. And it was cool to see Xanathar. The costumes and actors were phenomenal. It's just, I don't know why I'm there, other than just to walk through a theater show, which I don't feel like that's how it was advertised. I felt like it was advertised was interact with these characters, help them find out why this staff got stolen, why the queen is after this staff, help them find out all this stuff, and kind of almost like an escape room, but not. That's what I would have wanted from that, and plus more interactions with stuff you get from where did I go? There it is. Stuff you get from the park, That's my thoughts on Dungeons and Dragons. Now let's get to Star Trek. Star Trek. I started with Dungeons and Dragons because that was the thing I was looking forward to the most. And I was entertained, and it was cool. It's just, before I get to Star Trek, there's another thing about Dungeons and Dragons that they don't really touch up on, is you get split into two groups. One group are fighters and warriors, and the other group are clerics and wizards. There is no point to any of that, other than you are standing on opposite sides of the room. I would have loved if one of the actors were like, hey, we need a wizard. You raise your hand first. Come on up here, and you have the wizard that they chose do something on stage of interacting or something, and you have a randomized chance whether it succeeds or fails and things like that. And that's what I would have wanted to see from the reason of why they split the groups up into two, other than just for spacing reasons. Again, more interaction goes into my complaint of Dungeons and Dragons. And there's also a really, really cool effect that I don't want to spoil, because it is fucking amazing. But if you know Dungeons and Dragons, and it has to do with a chest. And the way they pull that effect off is fucking incredible, because once it happens and then it resolves, I don't know, or I wasn't, I guess it wasn't locked in enough to see, but I don't know how they pulled the effect off. I don't know where the transformation happens or how the transformation happens, but it blew my mind. And Dungeons and Dragons was fucking cool. Just minor complaints, and that's it. Now Star Trek. Let's get to Star Trek. The worst thing that I experienced was Star Trek. I am not a Trekkie. I couldn't name you 5 Star Trek characters other than Captain Kirk, Spock, and Data. That's it. That's all I know. I those are the only characters that I can name for you from Star Trek, and also Picard. But I guess that's 4 now. Whatever. The point is, I don't know much about Star Trek other than the public knowledge and meme knowledge, and I was hoping for this whole event to be a gateway for things that I am not familiar with, a gateway to get me interested into something. And that's why I was going to this and looking forward to this, because maybe I do want to be more interested in Star Trek. I want to delve more deeper into the Trek lore. But the problem is this attraction did the complete opposite, and I want nothing to do with Star Trek if this is how stories are told in Star Trek. So, Same thing with Dungeons and Dragons. You get split up into two groups, Group A and Group B. There is no point, there is no reason other than to be in a different room and have, I think, more people go through it at a time is why they split these groups up into two, so they can have more people and get those lines flowing. Which I don't know how that's going to work because my walkthroughs didn't have any lines. I basically walked through everything like that. It maybe took like a minute or two for them to have me wait there and wait for more people to show up in line and then send me. But I did not wait behind anybody for any of these attractions other than Star Trek. The first time I went through Star Trek. That was the first thing I did when I entered the park was Star Trek. And it was so disappointing because when you think of Star Trek, you think of, at least me, I know that there's Borgs, there's phasers. I know every Star Trek episode isn't all about action, and it is more about politics, more about the emotion of certain things and how to play with people's emotions in the future relating to something that could be going on in current events. I was hoping for something like that, but no. What we got was we go into a room. The theme is that you come off a spaceship into this museum, and in this museum, you're supposed to be going through the Enterprise of the one that you Trekkies that are watching, I'm gonna piss you off because I don't know anything about this, but you go into the Jean-Luc Picard fucking bridge at the end. That is the whole point of this attraction, is to see this bridge, and apparently it's the bridge that they use in the Picard show, which I've never watched nor will probably watch. The thing is the story was ass. The story starts, you go off from a spaceship into this museum, and in the museum, or as you're in the museum, an anomaly hits the ship, and the ship goes awry, and all the performers, they're putting in their all. They're trying their hardest. They are trying their best to make this entertaining. And each room is just, the anomaly, computer, talk to me, computer, okay, guys, you're gonna have to go into the next room. The computer's not responding. You got to take an elevator to the escape pods, and okay, now you're in the escape pods. And then you guys like, okay, all right, computer, take me to the escape pods or whatever. I don't remember what they were saying, but computer, and they just walk back and forth trying to figure out. And you're supposed to be in this elevator or this I don't know. And then the computer's like, all right, destination set, the bridge, and the actor's like, the bridge. I don't want to go to the bridge. And I don't know anything about Star Trek nor spaceships, but I'm like, what? How the fuck did we get on to a bridge in space? I was confused, and then when we walked into the room, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what they call this shit in Star Trek, is a bridge, the cockpit, because they probably didn't want to say cock, but that is the whole experience. This anomaly hits the ship, shit goes awry, people are the performers are going crazy. There's steam that comes out of one of the engines because you're in the engine room for some reason. You get from the med bay to the engine room to the elevator to then the bridge. And then once you're in the bridge, you're met with, I don't know if it's a Romulan or a what are the Vulcans? Yeah, I don't know if it's a Romulan or a Vulcan, but it had the pointy ears, and there was other characters in other races, and this anomaly starts talking, and the anomaly's like, oh, sorry, we just wanted to make contact, thank you all, we learned a lot, bye. I was hoping that maybe this anomaly was calling something, and maybe it was calling like the Borgs. We got some Borgs, because I know the Borgs are like fucking deadly, but I want to know more about the Borgs, because I know the spaceship is like a cube, right? And you know, it would have been cool if we seen that cube on the screen, and we're in there, and the Borgs come in trying to capture us, and then, you know, we have the fucking, I don't know, Klingons show up and save the day. I don't know. I wanted to like have something more immersive of like, oh shit, we're fucked, but it wasn't like that. This anomaly was there to make contact and leave, and then after that, they're like, all right, thanks guys for hanging with us. Sorry that all that happened. Safe travels and live long and prosper. And then you go back out to the Scooby van. That's Star Trek. And that's how it felt. That when I think back on it, that is my mental memory of what happened. Both times I went through, because I went through it twice. But the first time, I was stuck in line because before everything, I was stuck in line because they were having technical difficulties. This is their first night. I understand. I don't hold anybody accountable. Shit's gonna happen. But by God, I had somebody in line next to me, and they couldn't stop complaining that it was stuck, that we weren't moving in this line, that we were not going through this attraction. And it's like, it was their first night. It's their first event of FanFest. So we have to give them a break. We have to be a little lenient. We have to be a little open-minded of, okay, maybe this is happening. Maybe this is happening. Let's cut them some slack. If they could have us walk through, they would 100%. But just technical difficulties happening. Sets look cool. Sets were also kind of a little bland because it's Star Trek, and I've never seen Star Trek. The only knowledge of Star Trek I have is what's in the first Chris Pine movie, because I don't remember. I've seen all the other Chris Pine movies, but I don't remember anything after the first one. And sorry guys, but Star Trek, I just didn't enjoy it. And maybe if somebody who likes Star Trek enjoyed it, or sorry, maybe if somebody who likes Star Trek, they would enjoy it. But I just don't see anybody having an entertaining time compared to everything else that is here. I got worried when after I went through this attraction, because I don't know if everything is going to be like that. I didn't know. So everything else after that was a big surprise to me. So Star Trek, I would only go through that if there was a less than 5 minute wait. Again, nothing. I don't want to disrespect the actors, the performers. The performers were fantastic. The performers were trying to do everything and anything to make this entertaining, and they were. And you could tell the energy that they had was there. The energy that was coming from every actor in there was there. And I don't know. It's just there was something missing. But it is their first event, so we'll see. But I just didn't enjoy Star Trek for the story reasons. The biggest complaint I think people are going to have is the fact that if you look up, you see there's no ceiling. You are on a set and with no ceilings, like HHN, of course. But I feel like it is more noticeable in these attractions than it is in HHN. The beauty with Dungeons and Dragons is most of it was pretty dark. It wasn't really well lit. So you had that illusion that the walls were blending in with the ceiling, so you couldn't tell that there was other shit above you. But with Star Trek, there is no dark space in Star Trek. There is no dark room. There is no dark anything. So everything is really, really well lit. So it is easy to tell, where the set cuts off and where it becomes the soundstage. So that's my thoughts on Star Trek. I don't think your average FanFest goer is going to know what's going on in most of these attractions because of how fast they want to progress this story, how fast they want to move people through these lines. So the second time I went through Star Trek, I was in the back. I was like one of the last people to get into line or get into the attraction with my group, and I couldn't see what was going on because so many people were in front of me. Short people are going to have such a hard time. They need to regulate that. They need to have, all right, short people up in the front, tall people up in the back, because if you're short, you can't, you're screwed. You're screwed if you're not in the front. And there's no guarantee to get into the front because they don't regulate it. Once those doors open, all right guys, go inside. If you're all the way in the back and you want to run up front, they're not going to stop anybody. They're not going to be like, hey, wait your turn. They're just going to let you go. And so that's also a big concern that I have. But luckily I'm not short. I'm kind of tall. So for those short people, I'm gonna feel really bad for you because you might not even know what's gonna happen, especially kids, because I have no idea if this event is meant for kids, um, which is a perfect segue into the One Piece and Jujutsu Kaisen stuff. The One Piece and Jujutsu Kaisen, I think, are gonna want kids to show up. I already know that I have brothers, sisters, uh, brothers of friends and brothers and sisters of friends. I've also been talking about, um, you know, this fucking Jujutsu Kaisen and One Piece at Universal Studios. I want to go see Jujutsu Kaisen. I want to go see One Piece. But the disappointing thing about all that is it's only in one little area. Jujutsu Kaisen is only in the DreamWorks Theater. There, at least when I was there was no JJK characters that you could do photo ops with. There are no, JJK interactions that you can have um, at certain areas, I guess, or in the line. I don't know, but there was really nothing else other than the DreamWorks Theater show, and the DreamWorks Theater JJK show is literally the JJK show that they show in Japan. It is the same exact thing, from my understanding, from my assumption, because of how it ends. It ends with fucking Kaizen. I don't know their names. It ends with Kaizen uh coming, like, teleporting, and he has the fucking Universal Japan popcorn container, and he's like, "Yeah, I was just visiting Universal Japan right now, and that's why I couldn't help you guys sooner. So I showed up. I just came from Universal Japan, and here, guests, have some popcorn." And he, like, throws the popcorn. It's supposed to, like, look 3D, and I think that in Japan maybe this was a 3D show, and because a lot of stuff that happens in this show, it's like, I'm gonna, something's coming at the guests. I gotta save them, and then, like, they come and kick the thing, and it looks exactly like how it did on the screen right now. And I'm like, this had to have been in 3D, and that happens so many times. Even the characters, there's like a character that like coming right into your face, and it's not, and it's like, I feel like this should be in 3D, but it's not. And because it's not in 3D, and it's just on the DreamWorks Theater screen, and kind of, the visuals look cool, but there was something off about it. There was something off. So when Kaizen throws the popcorn, and I'm picturing, okay, this is a show in Japan. I'm sure there's gonna be some popcorn scents. So I was expecting the theater to smell like popcorn or something, but nope, we didn't get any of that. And they're like, once they beat the monster at the end, they're like, all right, let's go back to Universal Japan, and that's where the show ends. And I'm like, could you? I would have liked something maybe original, and maybe reference the park that I'm actually in. It's just a little complaint, and I've never watched the Kaizen of the Jujitsus, but I have no knowledge of JJK. So I am just an ignorant American watching this show, and I'm like, well, why isn't it American? No, I'm not that ignorant, but it's like, why just port it over? Well, like Mr. Krabs says, money. And I understand they just wanted to bring in the audience to Jujutsu Kaisen, bring in the guests to Jujutsu Kaisen, and get them maybe interested in it. But I I was very taken out when everything was happening on screen and it's stuff popping out at you like this. I'm gonna finger bang you, and then Kaizen comes, and it's just like you're having those moments of slow-mo where something's coming at you, but it's not coming at you because you're on a 2D screen. Whoa, why am I overexposed? There we go. Jeez. Looking like powder. Anyways, so the visuals were cool, but I was very taken aback by. Oh, and the seats move when you're watching the show, which adds to the effect. Maybe that's what took me out of it even more, because the seats are moving, but nothing is coming out at me. I don't know. Maybe it's minor complaint. And also, when I was watching it, they didn't utilize the screens on the side. They were just like rainbow colored or something. Like, it was literally what the hat looks like, the Back to the Future 2 hat. just on the the screens on the side. But visuals were cool. I don't know. I was just like, I would rather have just gone through D&D again. I did that twice. I did JJK twice as well. So yeah. Then after that, also you walk through the One Piece photo op to get to JJK, and that's all One Piece is. As far as I know, I don't think they have a show for One Piece. I don't think they have like a parade or something. Maybe like a fanimony, like scaramony, but for One Piece. I don't know if they had that. I didn't experience it, so I'm going to say they don't. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see a show. I didn't see them, like do like character interactions with each other. Of like, you see Mr. Fantastic interacting with the shirtless dude. Again, I don't know anything about One Piece. I don't know any of their names. I just know that he stretches the guy with the hat. He stretches like Mr. Fantastic, and there's a buff guy. But I didn't witness any of that. I kind of stuck around in that little area to see, but all that was happening was people lining up to take pictures with the Mr. Fantastic guy and some other characters. So all that. Oh, I forgot about Yoshi. The Yoshi egg hunt. Down in Nintendo World, they're having a Yoshi egg hunt for FanFest, where you get a little Burger King paper crown, but it's not Burger King. It has like Yoshi and stuff, and you have to go around and find eggs. I didn't. I'm a grown man. I was there by myself. I wasn't going to do this egg hunt. But what I did do in Nintendo World was eat the worst theme park food that I could ever have, that I've ever had, and that was the Yoshi's Fettuccine Alfredo. Holy shit, that is the most unseasoned, bland fucking meal I've ever had. Whoever came up with the idea for Yoshi to have why not have a Yoshi ramen where it has the egg in the fried egg in the ramen? Like a Yoshi ramen would have been so much better, just but whatever. And we got a fettuccine Alfredo where it comes with mushrooms, broccoli, fettuccine noodles, and chicken and Alfredo sauce. And on this fucking plate, I couldn't take a picture of this because my phone was dead. Because if I could take a picture with it, I would be showing it up on the screen. But it was this egg-shaped, like almost dumpling-looking thing on my pasta, and I had no idea what it was. I picked it up, took a bite out of it, and it turns out it is just bread. I have no idea what this is doing on my plate. I know it's supposed to resemble like a Yoshi egg, but it is just bread, and it looked like once you took a bite out of it, you're like, oh, it's bread because it looks like bread, and it has no flavor at all. It was the worst thing I've ever had at a theme park. Don't eat the Yoshi's Fettuccine Alfredo. It is not good. There is no flavor whatsoever. And don't even eat at Toadstool Cafe. I don't know why people eat at Toadstool Cafe. It is the worst food in the theme park. Jurassic Cafe, the Three Broomsticks. I was gonna eat at Three Broomsticks, but nothing there looked good that I kind of wanted to try. I just didn't eat at the Three Broomsticks, and I wish I had. I wish I would have because I kind of wanted to try what they had there. So, but I did have the Yoshi melon green apple drink, and that drink is really good. It is just way too sweet. Very sweet. If you're in a group or you're with somebody and you want to pass around the drink, you want to share it, that it is a perfect drink for that because it is way too strong for someone on their lonesome to drink, especially if you've already drinking alcohol, you've already had all these different foods at the event. But now, that is everything. But I left one important thing to talk about, and that is Back to the Future. The Back to the Future experience is what you are paying to go to FanFest for. It is probably the best thing that I've seen at Universal Studios Hollywood ever. It is so fucking cool, and I wish that we can permanently get this to have during the day because I would have loved to see this during the day. So, what this Back to the Future event is or attraction is you go on the studio tour tram and it takes you down to where the clock tower is in the back lot. And while you're going there, it's having like Doc Brown like talk about certain things, and he's like, remember, you're in 1955. They're not gonna know anything, and don't try to make paradoxes in the space time continuum, or else you could have humans have buttholes coming out of their ears, and it would go awry, Morty. It was kind of like that on the tram, but when you get to Hill Valley, it is incredible. You are on the actual set that they filmed the clock tower scene where all the scenes, I think, where they use the clock tower, I think, are filmed there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it is I think it's the exact clock tower where Christopher Lloyd was hanging off of to connect the wire in the movie. But you are there. You are on that fucking set, and it is incredible. All while you're on that set, you have performers performing as Biff's friend T-Bone, fucking what is her name, Lorraine, George McFly, the principal, the the uh, the guy who becomes mayor in the 80s, when in Marty's time period, and all these different characters, and they're performing a show on this set. But it is insane how it works, because Marty goes from meeting his mom. I don't know, because I assume he goes from meeting his mom to meeting his dad to fighting with Biff to the same events in the movie. I believe it takes place right when Marty shows up in 1955. And the thing is it's a 45-minute loop. This show is a 45-minute loop. So it starts and then it ends just for it to start again and go in that continuous loop. The thing that is so cool about this is you can stay down there for however long you want. If you want to start the event there and end the event there and stay down there the whole night, nobody's going to kick you out until it's closing time. And which is fucking incredible. And I think everybody is going to talk about this the most when it comes to FanFest. Nobody will shut up about Back to the Future. You're going to see a lot of Back to the Future on your feeds if you're heavily into the theme park community, which I'm really not. I'm just making assumptions. But this is what you're paying for FanFest. This is why you are here, is for the Back to the Future experience. It is fucking incredible. So you have to follow these characters, and while you follow these characters, they are performing those scenes in the movies, but you can also interact with these characters. Just like I was just hanging out. Again, I had a wand with me, right? Biff and his buddy T-Bone were going into the direction that I was already standing in, and I saw him walking towards me. I turned my back to him, and I pull out my wand, and I act like I'm like a fucking wizard, and I'm like, Avada Kedavra, and his reaction, he looked at me like all weird, and he was just like, I have a stick too, and I was like, I don't see this stick, but and then he walked off, and I thought that was fucking cool. That was fucking hilarious, and that is something Biff would totally do if he saw somebody trying to use a fucking wand from Harry Potter. And what was really cool is you see the scene with with George McFly clocking old Biff in the face and then kissing Lorraine, to just like the events in the movie. The rest of the experience, Biff is pouting and like almost on the verge of tears, which I found fucking awesome. They didn't have the actor just go back and all right, you're done. You got punched. That's it. He is still there, and it is amazing because you can interact with him in this sad state. And I tried talking to him, and I did talk to him, but he was like, "Nah, get away from me, buzz off or whatever." And then I was like, "It's okay, buddy. I can see you waxing a big a big truck in your future. And I forgot what he said because I was walking away, but I should have hung around for his reaction. I just didn't want to make things weird just waiting for his reaction. So yeah, Back to the Future, insane. There is no stunt show. There is some pyrotechnics, and they don't have a DeLorean actually go through where the DeLorean went through and have a lightning fucking strike. They don't do all that. I was expecting that for some fucking reason. I don't know, but they don't do all that. And instead they project that scene onto the clock tower and have lighting effects to make it look like the car is going super fast and going back to the future or the present. But yeah, that's my experience at FanFest. Do I recommend going to FanFest? I recommend going to FanFest if you are interested in these properties. If you not interested, but if you are involved in these properties, if you are knowledgeable within them, because I was just there because I got in for free, but I didn't have I wouldn't have paid for this. I would have been disappointed if I had paid for this because I am not knowledgeable with these properties. So it's something that I really really hope does well. I'm hoping that this does well so that they can improve upon it and do something upon it because this is something that I don't think has happened with any other theme park. They have not done something like this, at least on the West Coast, which is where I live. I don't know if there has been a theme park that has done stuff like this because this was crazy. And if we get something like this for different properties, like if we do Back to the Future but make it Terminator, to where you have all these actors from Terminator are portraying these characters from Terminator, and you are like part of this experience. Um, there was an instance where Marty first meets Doc in the past in 1955, and Marty's like, "Hey, I need your help. I know you're building the DeLorean, or not building the DeLorean, but he knows about all this stuff." Because Doc Brown told him, "Hey, go back to the future. The only way for you to come back is to use the DeLorean that I was trying to create at the time." Because he comes up with the blueprints because he bumps his head on the sink or some shit, and Marty is like, he's like, "Ah, man, I forgot what would help Doc remember that I'm from or not remember, but believe me that I'm from the future. Do you guys have any ideas?" And somebody yelled, smartphones." And Marty's like, "I don't know what that is. I don't know." And they made like a little joke to the guy who said it, and then somebody said the flux capacitor, and then Marty's like, "Oh yes, the flux capacitor. Yeah, that's how you came up with the flux capacitor because you hit your head on the sink," and just like how he says it in the movie. And that was the interaction that I wanted for Dungeons and Dragons and Star Trek. All the interactions that you can experience in Back to the Future, because you play a part in the interactions Back to the Future. When George kisses Lorraine and asks her to the under the sea dance, Lorraine turns to the audience and is like, "Should I go?" And of course me, because I'm like, I want to see if I get a reaction from anybody, but I was like, "No." And whatever. No, of course they didn't acknowledge it because the answer is obviously yes, but you as a guest play a part into that show, and it is so cool. And that is why Back to the Future is so cool. And I want more things like that in theme parks. This is a theme park, and to have that in a theme park is so big on theming. If you can have this interactive show, not just a show, but a show where the guests can interact with the characters, that's fucking amazing. You can spend your whole day just trying to get different interactions with these characters, just trying to talk with these characters. And it's I think it was incredible. It was incredible, and I hope we see more stuff like that in theme parks, which I don't think we're going to. I don't know how well this event is going to go. I'm going to definitely keep my eye on the Universal app to see those wait times and keep myself in the loop of uh, different people going to to theme parks, such as different YouTubers and such. Uh, but yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on FanFest. It was entertaining, but I wouldn't pay for it. And from a lot of people that went that I talked to, um, they felt the same way. Again, I didn't go with anybody. I was there by myself, but I ended up talking to people that were there, and I was like, hey, like, how do you just be honest with me? Like, what do you feel about this event? Everyone's like, it's cool. I just wouldn't pay for it. I wouldn't pay for it. I wouldn't go back. I'd done it once. I wouldn't do it again. And that's honestly how I feel. But I'm very curious to see how the public feels, how the majority feel is what I mean. And I hope it does well because I want Universal to uh, improve upon this and maybe even apply this to Horror Nights, which I fucking love Horror Nights. And if we had an interactive show in Horror Nights, that would be amazing. Like, you have the sets that you use for Universal Monsters. You could do a Universal Monsters interactive show like Back to the Future there. It would be amazing. It would be so cool. And Florida's getting a lot of love right now, um, as far as it goes for Universal. And Hollywood over here, all we're getting is a roller coaster, which looks fucking amazing. Looks like it's gonna be the best roller coaster that I've ever been on. But Hollywood needs some more love. We need some more love. We need some tender love and care. And I think FanFest is a good starting point to get that tender love and care. I hope this does well. I hope we get more properties, because as I was walking through, there were some empty spaces like Horror Nights. Even with Horror Nights, like, I feel like there's so many empty spaces. Like, why isn't nothing here? We could totally have something here, and that's how it felt for FanFest. When I went, they didn't have any of the rides open. I don't know if that's how it's going to be for the event. I think that would be insane if they just closed down all the rides, except Mario Kart. Mario Kart stays open for the event, or it was open for the event that I went to. Um, but I'm very interested to see how the people react to this, how crazy this gets, if it gets crazy at all. Because those lines, man, I don't know how those lines are going to be compared to Horror Nights when it was terrible those years back. And I have no idea. I have no idea. We'll wait and see. The event starts tomorrow, and so I will be definitely keeping my eye on live streams, um, social media, just trying to see what the general consensus of this event is. And maybe I'm the outlier. Maybe I am the one that is so ignorant I can't enjoy anything, which could be a possibility. But we'll see. But that's it. That's kind of my thoughts on FanFest. What I want to see from FanFest in the future is more properties, dude. Bring us more properties. Bring us more cool shit. If we can have an interactive show like Back to the Future, but make it Jurassic World, that would be fantastic. I would love that. Have the Raptors, have dinosaurs going around and all this shit. Oh my god, dude! There's the potential is the possibilities are endless for this event, in my opinion. And I just hope it does well so they can put more money into it next year and it can be bigger every fucking year, dude. Because if we can get bigger and better, in my opinion, better properties, like, it could be an easy cash cow for Universal. Like, if we get Terminator, dude, and have that experience of you are trying to um keep John Connor safe while the Terminator's trying to kill him, and you're trying to help Sarah Connor or something, and things like that. Or I don't know. I don't know anything about these things. So again, take my opinions with a grain of salt. I just want to see some more love for Terminator because we've been down in the depths for for a little while. Um, I personally liked, what was it, Dark Fate? Was it Dark Fate or the one before that? I don't know. I liked one of the new Terminators that a lot of people didn't, and I thought it was fine. But I'm not here to talk about Terminator. Um, I would love to see just more universal properties. I'm surprised we didn't get like a Fast and Furious thing after going to this. Like I'm surprised that they tried to branch out and do properties that they don't particularly own or promote that they own, such as One Piece, Dungeons and Dragons, Star Trek, all this shit. I'm surprised that they just didn't start doing, you know, just start with their own properties and see where it goes from here. Uh, because if I'm gonna be honest, if it was just Universal properties, I think it would have been a little bit more entertained, um, and a little more invested into these properties because I'm not familiar with any of these properties. So, anyways, I feel like I'm rambling at this point. Uh, yeah. Tell me what you thought about FanFest. If you've gone, if you want to go, if you have any questions, uh, I can answer them in the comments. And yeah, that's it. I don't know if you're going to see any more theme park related content. I guess we'll see how good this video does compared to my Final Girl videos, that I fucking love doing and hold near and dear to my heart. I just been so busy lately that I haven't been able to do any Final Girl videos recently or live streams. But I'm getting a new expansion for Final Girl. And once I get that expansion, I'm going to take a day and break down that expansion as much as possible and just show you what is there in that expansion to offer, if it's worth getting. Um, if you already have everything, you're already going to get it anyway, so who cares? But I know there's some people out there that, they have one or two boxes because, you know, they're not highly invested into this like I am. But anyways, again, I'm rambling. See you guys. Have a good day. Have a good night. Whatever your time zone may be. Don't forget to have a good life. See you guys.